This episode of the Cascadian Beer Podcast has been made possible by the BC Ale Trail. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. With so much happening in the Cascadian beer scene, you have to appreciate the locally focused beer events. Welcome to the Cascadian Beer Podcast. My name's Aaron and I'm a Cascadian. I have a background in radio and television broadcasting. I'm a music producer and I have a passion for beer. I don't consider myself an expert in beer by any means, but I do enjoy and respect the craft and the passion of these brewmasters. I want to learn from these pioneers on what sets them apart from the rest and why they choose to call Cascadia their home. Cascadia is a bioregion in the Pacific Northwest on the North American continent. It is made up of the U.S. states of Washington and Oregon, as well as the Canadian province of British Columbia. In this podcast series, I profile the unique breweries of Cascadia, a region that has a strong presence on the international beer scene. Today, I've traveled to Victoria, British Columbia to attend Victoria Beer Week. Now, in its 5th year, this festival helps highlight not only the history of craft beer in Victoria, but to Vancouver Island as well. The week featured a wide variety of events from beer-themed nights, food pairings, home brewing classes, and much more. But it all started with the liftoff event at the Victoria Public Market.
Okay, so definitely big friend of the podcast and also a part-time co-host of the podcast. I am with the organizer of Victoria Beer Week. Joe Wiebe, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again.
Yeah, we haven't seen each other since the BC Beer Awards.
That's true, and that was a fun time. We had a really good time interviewing different brewers there. I remember a good moment with Nigel especially.
That was a great story. If you haven't listened to that episode, go and check it out. But we're here in Victoria at the liftoff event, and congratulations, you've turned 5.
I've turned 5. 5 years of cheers we're celebrating here in Victoria for Victoria Beer Week, and we're very proud of that achievement, and we're having a great night. We just launched the whole week off with liftoff.
And am I correct in saying that you started Victoria Beer Week, correct?
Yeah, I'm part of the group of people that started Victoria Beer Week. A bit of backstory there. I was in Vancouver up until about 2012, and I moved over to Victoria around then. And Vancouver Craft Beer Week had started, and I wanted to have the same kind of thing over here. So I started talking about it with people, and it turned out there was a group already kind of, starting with talking about it themselves. So I managed to kind of force my way in, and they welcomed me with open arms. Of course, they're very nice people. And together we started Victoria Beer Week back in the first one was in March 2014. And over the years, my role has grown considerably, and now I'm the overall producer.
And, Victoria is a great spot because there's quite a great concentration of really great breweries here.
Yeah, I think we have 13 breweries right in Greater Victoria, about 9 or 10 right in the city itself. What I love about Victoria is that we have great history here, as well as a great kind of contemporary scene. So, you can look back to Spinnaker's, which was the first brew pub in Canada in 1984. Vancouver Island Brewing opened that year too. And then a bunch of great breweries that have opened over the years since then, places like Phillips and Driftwood and Hoyne. And then you have the new scene with places like Category 12, right? And the Axe and Barrel and stuff like that, which are doing really, really nice things as well.
And it's not just Victoria too. It seems the smaller communities on Vancouver Island proper are also getting breweries of their own now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, right nearby we have Sooke, which is about a 45-minute drive just heading west from Victoria, and there's 3 breweries there now that opened. One opened a couple of years ago, but 2 just opened in the fall. And then places like Chemainus, and then you head up to Nanaimo. Duncan has a bunch of breweries now. A new one just opened, Small Block. In fact, at Liftoff tonight, I think is really cool. We have side by side, we have Small Block and Spinnaker's. So Spinnaker's, dates back to 1984, the oldest craft brewery in Canada, arguably. And then you have Small Block, which isn't even officially open yet, but they're serving their beer for the first time anywhere, including the brewery, tonight. I love it.
The thing about Victoria Beer Week too is it is inviting others. It's not like you need to be from Victoria or Vancouver Island in general. So there is some Vancouver representation here tonight as well.
Yeah, there's breweries from all over BC. We have Fernie here. We have breweries from the Okanagan throughout the week. And that's the idea, is that it's not just about Victoria breweries. It's about celebrating craft beer culture in Victoria. So Victoria residents can come and enjoy beer from all over the province. Tourists, because Victoria is a big tourist town, can plan their trip around experiencing Victoria Beer Week, knowing that there will be lots of representation of breweries from all over BC. And the breweries, we have breweries who plan their year, it's kind of their holidays, their vacations, things like that, around coming to Victoria because they love coming here. They get to participate in Victoria Beer Week. They get to enjoy their time in Victoria at the same time. So we get some really good breweries. We have Brassneck here tonight. We have Powell Brewery and Strange Fellows later in the week that are bringing over amazing beers. So yeah, it's a great festival all around.
And I have to ask, was the schedule made up over a beer? Because Victoria Beer Week is actually 9 days this year.
Oh, yeah, I guess we didn't do the math right. Yeah, it's funny. We started with an 8-day week back in 2014 because we launched on a Saturday and finished on a Saturday. And we thought that was pretty funny. And then at some point, about 2 years in, we were like, well, let's launch on the Friday, but we'll keep going till the Saturday. So it's 9 days. Eventually, we'll probably be like a 2-week thing. I don't know. I hope not. It just about kills me already. So.
And generally, this time of year, we're in March, the first weekend in March. Is this the general time of year that it happens?
Yeah, it's always the first week of March. We picked this time because, Victoria is a big tourist town. So we have starting already in April, May, the cruise ships start arriving. It's super busy here. The hotels are jammed. The restaurants are jammed. But, after Christmas ends, there's a bit of a slow patch. And we picked this to be kind of the shoulder season and a time to give both residents and people like the hotels and pubs and things like that something to look forward to. It really works well. It really fits the calendar well. So yeah, that's where it is. And the weather, is pretty nasty generally around this time of year. But this year we decided we just simply wouldn't brave it. We usually have a few outdoor events, but this year we're doing everything inside.
Yeah, I mean it's lovely outside, but it's also pretty cold tonight. So yeah. If people want to find out a bit more about Victoria Beer Week, sometime in the future, come and visit themselves, where can they go?
VictoriaBeerWeek.com is our website, and we have all the social media channels and everything else as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers. Thank you.
Big thank you to Joe Wiebe for his time. Now it was time to hit the floor at the Liftoff event and talk to some of the participants that were pouring some beers there.
Your name?
Rob Mangelsdorf.
And who do you represent?
I'm the editor of the Growler, BC's craft beer magazine.
And we're at Victoria Beer Week. And you did a special collaboration beer with Category 12 and Faculty. What is that beer and how did that come about?
Yeah, so this is the first release in what's going to be a quarterly collaboration series that we're doing called the BC Brewers Collaboration Series. The first edition is an experimental Belgian ale done by Faculty in Vancouver and Category 12 in Victoria. So it's basically like a dry hop pale ale, clocking at about 5%, 22 IBU, done with some pretty obscure hops, Saphir and Calypso, which are pretty hard to get your hands on. Very tropical, fruit forward. There's some Magnum in there for bittering as well.
I was getting orange and pineapple.
Yeah, pineapple, passion fruit. And then some the pine on the back end from the...
pretty dry finish, true.
Yeah, very dry finish. Yeah. And a lot of that, too, is from the yeast. There's a golden pear Belgian yeast that it's done with, which is very fruit forward, heavy on the pear and the stone fruit, but also not quite as peppery as some Belgian yeasts.
So is this the first time the Growler's been at Victoria Beer Week?
No. I was here last year when it was outside in pissing rain. And I'm really glad that it's inside now. First time that we're pouring beer, though.
But yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day inside at the Victoria Public Market.
Right, and the Growler, what do you guys do, and how can people find out more about you?
Oh, check out thegrowler.ca. We're BC's craft beer guide. We're a quarterly magazine. We feature listings on every single brewery in the province. 154, I believe, in our last issue, which just came out. So it's hot off the presses. You can find it at better craft breweries, newsstands, liquor stores all over the province.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks a lot, man.
Your name, sir?
Michael Cusick.
And who do you represent?
Category 12.
And you have two beers pouring here, actually.
Yeah, it's actually kind of unique. We've got our Red Sour that we're launched, which is a new seasonal for us. And then we have a collaboration we did with Faculty Brewing. It's an experimental spin on a golden ale with a Belgian pear yeast and some really cool hops, Calypso and Sapphire.
Cool. So tell me about the sour. How did that beer come about?
Yes. That started off as an R&D batch back in the summer, early fall, using local boysenberries. We couldn't get any boysenberries this time of year, but we were able to get some of the 2017 blackberry harvest from the peninsula. And there's about 120 kilos of blackberries in the sour, and it's a red sour, so it's a kettle sour. But it's got a really nice full body to balance out the acidity, and the fruit just comes through a little bit on the back of the palate in the aroma.
Right, and you are a brewery actually representing Victoria at Victoria Beer Week. Where can people find you and find out more about you?
Totally. We're on the Saanich Peninsula, so we're halfway between downtown and the ferries on Keating Crossroad. And if you want to find out more about us, category12beer.com.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Your name?
Rachel Warren,
All right, and who are you representing?
faculty brewing.
Right, and how many years have you attended Victoria Beer Week?
This is actually our first year.
And what are you pouring?
We're pouring a collaboration that we made with Silk Road. So it's our 250 London Fog Ale.
And Silk Road is actually a tea house here in Victoria.
Tea house here in Victoria, actually a part of the market right now. So
Cool, and how did that beer turn out?
it's beautiful. Lovely notes of bergamot and vanilla like really shine through. And then it's kind of just a nice, easy drinking American ale.
Cool, and where is faculty located?
Faculty is Second in Ontario in Vancouver.
Right. How long have you been open?
About a year and a half now. Almost getting to that 2-year mark. We're excited.
That's the magic number.
That's the magic number.
All right, cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I am Dan Fuggles.
All right, and you represent.
Fuggles and Warlock.
All right, based out of Richmond, right?
Yes, we are.
Right, and we're at Victoria Beer Week. How many years have you been participating?
I think it's our 3rd year now, so we're really happy. Like we love this event here.
And what beer did you bring?
We brought our Kizuna Pineapple Sour. It's our collaboration with Britannia Brewing in Richmond. Nice, juicy kettle sour with fresh pineapples. It's straight up pineapple. It's really nice to drink.
It's summer in a glass.
It is. It really is. It's really deceptive. It's 6.5%, but you'd think it's 4. Like it's so easy to drink. Yeah.
Is this your first time making like something in this style, or have you done something fairly similar before?
Well, we've done other sours, but we haven't seen many pineapple sours, and we thought like that would be pretty cool to do. And we're really, really happy with how it turned out.
Right. So was it just pineapple juice, or was it full pineapples? Like how did that work?
Yeah, so we're really careful on what we selected for the pineapple. So I made sure that it wasn't from concentrate. It was all as fresh as we could get. And we used as much fresh pineapples as we could.
Like how much in total do you remember?
I'm sure we used at least 400 to 500 liters, somewhere in there.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So your name, sir?
I'm Zach from Small Block.
Cool. And what is Small Block?
So we're a new brewery opening in Duncan in the next week, and we're hoping to be able to offer some English-inspired ales.
Right, and so this is your first time, like, ever pouring your beer, right?
Yeah, this is the first event, so we hung on to it and wanted to kind of tie into the exposure of liftoff. So,
and what are you pouring?
So we're pouring our Canadian Pale Ale, our Nailhead Pale Ale. It's 5.5%, 45 IBUs, and pretty smooth, introductory, easy drinking pale ale.
Cool. So where exactly in Duncan are you guys located?
So we're on the south end of town on Chester Road on the service road that runs along the highway.
And you're going to have like tasting room, lounge, like are the kitchen on site?
So we'll do a kitchen on site. It'll probably be just finger food, simple eats, and really focusing on the beer. We got a pretty fun looking tasting room that's coming together right now. An arcade machine and a dartboard, and we're just hoping it'll be kind of a cool, kind of industrial kind of looking hangout. A very garagey, not super polished, just kind of fun and exciting and inviting.
Right, and if people want to come by Duncan and visit you, how can they find out more information?
You can head to smallblockbrewing.com, or we have a Small Block Brewing on Facebook, and we're pretty active on Instagram as well.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, cheers, thanks.
It was a great way to kick things off with Victoria Beer Week. Amazing beers, and especially Small Block, since that was their first time pouring as well. Just want to say thank you really quick to the BC Ale Trail for making this episode possible, who, by the way, have an ale trail for Victoria. All you need to do is go to the bcaletrail.ca and you'll find recommended itineraries for not just Victoria, but other regions of the province, a comprehensive list of every craft brewery in BC, a calendar of beer events, and a blog with lots of great stories. The regional ale trails include local breweries, pubs, and restaurants, along with other activities the area has to offer. So whether you're planning a weekend trip or being a tourist in your own backyard or just want to check out Victoria and have no idea where to begin, well, let the BC Ale Trail guide you to your next beer adventure. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. Thanks very much, guys, for making this episode possible. The following day, I went to Swan's Pub, where it was time for the Brewmasters Brunch, an event where you can have a delicious brunch and meet some of the brewmasters from some breweries in Victoria. And so that's just what I did before things kicked off. I spoke with Chris, the brewmaster at Swan's Brewery.
My name is Chris Lukie, and I'm the brewer at Swan's Brewery.
And we are right on the corner here at pretty much the epicenter of Victoria, right?
Yeah, it's definitely the construction center.
A lot of Victoria, I find, is under construction at the moment. So
yeah, you're totally right.
And we're sitting in the nice like covered deck area, and we're looking at the corner of Pandora and Store. So yeah. So how long is this? Well, first we're at Swan's.
We're in Swan's Pub right now. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been here?
I've been here for almost a year and a half, I guess. Just under a year and a half.
Right. And how did beer find you?
Beer found me. I remember it was a very big decision one morning on my way to work.
Right.
2007. I worked as a technical baker in Winnipeg at the Grains Institute. And I was lucky enough to work in the same building as the Canadian Malting Barley Technical Center. And they had a pilot facility downstairs.
Right.
And I came in to work and they were going through the boil. And so the whole first floor just smelled like boiling wort. And I was just stopped in my tracks. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that smells so good. And then it was in that moment, because I've been doing baking and brewing off and on for different companies. And it was in that moment when I decided I'm going to turn beer into a career instead of bread.
Wow.
And since then, that's all I've been doing.
So grain has been throughout your life, like throughout your career.
Yeah. Fermentation, grain. It's been cool. I mean, my first brewing job was actually at Big Rock in Calgary as a quality control technician. So the police, that wasn't a fun job.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up doing product development for Weston's in Western Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got another job at Labatt's in Edmonton. So I was brewing Bud and Blue on the biggest facility you'll ever see. Took another baking job. And then this moment happened. And then I've been sticking with beer since.
All right. So do you remember what beer it was that wort was that you smelt?
They only made one. Yeah. So the technical center, all they did was they were hired by breweries and malting companies to test varieties.
Right.
So all they would ever do is get a pure variety and just get the actual statistics for extraction, attenuation, flavor profiles. So it was only ever like a Copeland lager or a Copeland pale ale or a Harrington or a Medallion or whatever the variety was at the time.
So just research,
just like pure research. Yeah.
New grain strains that came out. And
absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, like Labatt's would pay big bucks to have something developed and then they would do the testing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool though.
Yeah. That sounds cool, but also very stressful too. If Big Beer is saying, "Hey, let's come up with a new grain, make it work."
Yeah, they would do the
nature. Who cares about nature?
Well, actually, the good thing was that they just did traditional breeding techniques. They never went GMO or anything, as far as I know. So it's just traditional breeding. Pick the characteristics that they want, because it always comes down to the farmers.
Right.
The farmers have to be able to make money off this and be able to grow vast quantities off it. So they're not going to just say like. Listen to the brewers going, oh, this variety has a beautiful aroma and flavor. And the farmer will say, yes, but what's the yield?
Yeah.
So it's a neat thing that they do all the testing for that breeding.
Which, we were talking about earlier, like when you were giving me the tour of the brewery, like things that we just don't really think about and consider in life. And like, yes, we know it's barley and hops for beer, but yeah, I don't think we really take into account yields for farmers in order to make that their livelihood, in order to supply the raw ingredients necessary to make beer as well. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of
the whole ecosystem of
exactly like that why are we doing whatever we're doing always? But yeah, there's so many people involved in this chain of the industry, and I like we were saying before, like it's such a cool industry because there are so many cool people involved, and like. When you consider people like those farmers, they've got to send their kids to school. So they need to make something that they can rely on.
Mhm.
Same thing as breweries. Like, I mean, if a brewery makes an awesome beer that everybody loves, well, darn right, they're going to make it again because they know that people love it and it's something that they can really attach to and be proud of.
Mhm. And like last night, I was having a conversation with some other brewery owners about how they got all their stuff fabricated locally, like less than a kilometer away here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it is, everything's kind of feeding everything, and it is very local in that sense
Yeah.
of the jobs that you guys do.
I don't even know the exact numbers, but Beer Canada released some statistics. And the craft brewing industry and its offshoots, like and the companies that supply, there's so many jobs and there's so much contribution to the overall well-being of the country and the province just from our industry. And the really cool thing is that it's fun, and almost by definition, you're supporting local just by being part of it.
Yeah.
It's just the size and the magnitude of our industry is pretty cool when you consider the majority of us are small.
Yeah. And it's a very creative industry as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think that's why most of the people get into it too.
Okay. So tell me about working for the big boys. Was that just kind of turnkey, push a button and make sure it's all operational, or was there some actual manual labor involved as well in that process?
Yeah. So Labatt's was massive. So the strikeout for Budweiser was like 600 hectoliters, which is, I think, 2 of those or 1.5 of those is my entire yearly output. So, and I did that 3 times a shift or 10 times a day.
Right.
Every week throughout the year.
Can't really fathom that amount.
It's so much. So manually, yes, I moved the mouse and I pressed the keyboard buttons, but I also had to weigh out hops. And the hop charges were something like 80 kilograms just for one batch, which is kind of my yearly contract.
That'd be pellets, right? Like we're
Pellets,
not whole cone or
not whole cones. No. Only some of the traditional guys use whole cone. I know Budvar, the original Budweiser, they still use whole leaf Sats hops.
Right.
Big bales. It's pretty cool to see too. Just these piles of bales beside the kettle. But yeah, the big guys was really interesting.
And then how was it actually going to a smaller system and being in control of every little nuance of the brew?
The best.
Yeah.
Absolute best. Start to finish. It's the best feeling. From recipe, ordering, to brewing it, digging it out, cleaning the tanks, transferring it, bottling it, selling it, and delivering it. I do all of that with, I have an assistant now that helps to do a lot of the work while I'm on the computer, but I go from start to finish. And there's 1.5 of us in the brewery and it's all covered by us. And it's the best though. Mm-hmm. Nothing compares.
So Swans, when did Swans initially open? And is that the original brew house that you have? And what's the size of it?
Swans opened in 1989. So we're just about 30 years old. The brew house itself is an optimistic size of, I've never really used it to its full capacity because it would just boil over. It's a strange design, but I use it between about 17 to 19 hex, but I think it could do 20. My cellar tanks are 18.
And then how many cellar tanks do you have?
I have 20 cellar tanks, 5 fermenters. Each one gets 1 batch of beer.
Awesome. And the cellar tanks pump directly into the pub.
Yeah,
right? So
really cool. We have about 160 feet of line from the tanks to the taps. So every time a pint is poured off the front of the bar, it's coming directly from the tank.
And what are some of your favorite brews to actually make?
Lagers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What's the challenge with brewing a lager?
I don't know. It's the same as everything else. You just got to be clean and careful. I know a lot of people will say like, "Oh, you're so wrong," but it's just making beer. You got to be careful. You got to be clean. You got to do your homework, and it's easy. Just take care of it. It's like anything. You got to nurture. You got to care, and it should do exactly what it's going to do because the yeast know what they're supposed to do. Just give them the right conditions. The equipment knows what to do. You just got to provide the right volumes and velocities and use the right jumper.
Right. So you've been here almost 2 years. Has the beer lineup changed much from what was here before? Like, are you allowed to experiment and kind of do new test batches of things?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started, and it's less than 1.5 years, but when I started, we basically got rid of 80% of the lineup straight away. We kept 2 of the hits because people liked them and they were traditional Swans beers. I kept one seasonal and everything else has changed. So I basically started a lager program where we have pale lagers, Vienna, black lagers, Dunkels, Pilsners, all low temperature, 10-degree fermentation, and taking nice care of it with a Southern German lager yeast. And then just another array of ales. Basically, my marching orders on day one was we definitely need something pale for the people that come in and say, I just want a beer. Mm-hmm. We had to have something like that.
The approachable beer.
Exactly. Yeah. We had to have something like that. But he said, everything else, just make sure it rotates. Just keep it changing because the industry wants the new thing. Mm-hmm. People like core brands, but the question that any brewer, any liquor store, anybody in the industry will get is, oh, what's new?
Yeah.
So you got to keep going new.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, I mean, you guys package your own beer, right? And ship it out.
Yes. We strictly are doing Victoria and on the island. It may or may not just be Victoria pretty soon. We just got to figure out a couple of things, but our focus is our number one customer really is the pub. Mm-hmm. Because we bring in, we're a big tourist industry here in mm-hmm. Victoria. I mean, it's obvious, but Swan's is we get a large tourist population. So this is number one customer. Number two is our liquor store. And number three is basically anybody outside that is interested in carrying our beer, which right now the focus is Victoria.
Yeah. Like you don't really have much room to expand if you did want to branch out off the island, right?
No, we'd have to go into a separate space. I do have another room that I could add some more beer into, but being such a small business, it has to be a well thought through event. And that's kind of been that why question from the start. Like we're 30 years old almost. And coming here a year and a half ago, I looked at it as a startup. So I was like brand new.
Well, it almost is because the whole lineup changed pretty much, right?
It did.
Yeah.
The only baggage I had, like comparing a startup to what I came into, is that a startup is fresh. Mm-hmm. You know, they're given the hey, it's the new brewery coming, we're opening, so they get that spike. Whereas I'm just a new guy coming into Swans, where the reputation was not always the best, and it was an uphill climb to change the reputation from, oh, you guys have had those same beers for 13 years to something new. And I'm not saying anything was wrong in the past. It's just when you come in to change something or are asked to change something and everybody thinks you're still doing the old stuff, it's an extra hurdle as a startup to get over. So it's been interesting. We're making progress.
Right. If somebody was wanting to get in brewing themselves, what would be some tips for the home brewer that you can provide?
Basically, I would just say go for it. There's no harm in it. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm kind of astounded by how startups start up. I mean, they hit the ground 100%. Mm-hmm. They got the full-on tasting rooms, the big, beautiful spaces, the brand new equipment. It's unbelievable. Like, there's no startups now that were in a shed and the person lived in the shed and they sold, delivered, packaged everything. And then hopefully a few months later, they were able to hire somebody to do sales. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody hits the ground running now. From listening to the podcast, like every brewer's right. It's like, you need a lot of money. Like I didn't start this place, so I didn't have to do all that. Mm-hmm. I was just given a brewery to work with, which is what a brewmaster gets to do usually. But yeah, you need the money and you need to have a plan. That's really it. But I would say if I was asked what the best formula is right now for success in this industry, I would heartily say this lounge model is the best because that's what people want. People want to be part of something cool. They want to hang out at the brewery, or they want to be in a space that they feel welcome in, mm-hmm. where they can get something special. I feel that's the best model. Like the amount of tanks I have, I think that's a good amount of tanks because mm-hmm. then you can have such a wide variety of beers for people to try. You can be super experimental. It's a lot of fun for everybody involved.
I mean, and that's something else at the end of the day too. I mean, it's a creative industry, but it's also the entertainment industry too.
Yeah, absolutely.
With your beautiful tasting room and everything else involved.
Yeah, it's so well thought out now. Like the bar is unbelievably high now, and I'm very thankful for that. Like I'm very thankful for people in the industry for what they're doing because they've raised the bar, so it's making everybody try to be better. And the guys that aren't trying to be better, well, we all know what happens.
The market corrects itself, right?
Yeah, the market does correct itself. Yeah, because everybody will make those decisions. People will back up the decisions everybody else makes for sure. Like it'll correct. And so I'm super thankful for that. I guess it's friendly competition. It's still competition. Like we're not kidding. Everybody would love to sell more beer, of course, to be more successful. But the fact that we can all be in a really interesting, close industry is really great for that aspect.
At the moment, I feel it's very harmonious between everybody.
For sure.
It seems to be in a very comfortable state. So
it for sure is. Like I could feel it in Victoria. We're in regular touch. We do things together. We all help each other out. It's still happening. Although it is kind of funny with the way the industry is growing. Like some of the used to be the startups, like the big the Stone Brewing, those big guys. They're really becoming just like the Coors, the Budweisers, the other guy, the Old Milwaukees, the Schlitz. They're really just becoming them now because they're starting new breweries here, starting new breweries there, and they're starting to add in pasteurization. They're starting to do all this stuff that was taboo for the craft brewing industry. But in the scheme of things, it just makes sense for a brewery to do that stuff. But it's kind of funny how it's a surprise that this is happening when it's just the natural way things go. And like you get popular, you're going to get bigger. It's like the band that used to play the basement of a pub is now in a stadium. Yeah. It's just what goes on.
And so we've touched on creativity a bit. So I have kind of an odd question for you.
Fire away, my favorite.
All right. Is there a particular theme or story that you wish to portray through the beer that you're creating here when the customer comes in to experience it?
Two things. One is all the beers I make, people might consider them boring. And the reason it's that is because I like to focus on just brewing a really good beer. I feel that beer can be interesting just because it's good, just because it's balanced, just because it's well made, just because it's a good interpretation of a style. I feel that aspect of our industry is kind of getting diluted with the race to be new and interesting and quirky or
have that beautiful color looking beer on Instagram.
Yeah. Like just all the filters and all the stuff that gets into it. Like I don't think people need to try so hard to be interesting in that respect. And the second thing for a theme is I would like to make beers it kind of follows this one. It's to complement moments. It's not about people sitting at a table, grabbing a beer and going, oh my God, this beer. And then the whole conversation is about beer or whatever. I mean, if you're in the beer industry, then talk about beer for sure. Yeah. But my beer is not meant to be the point of getting together. It's supposed to just complement the moment.
Yeah.
Two friends can sit and have a beer and they'll be like, oh, that's good. And just carry on with their conversation.
Yeah.
Like it's not supposed to draw that much attention to it. It's not supposed to be the showcase. It's just supposed to complement that moment. So theme wise, it's not necessarily styles or barrels or anything like that. Like I love making lagers, but only to the extent that it complements people's moments. And sometimes moments need a lager. Sometimes moments need an Irish red. And sometimes moments need a golden strong. Yeah. So that's really where I shoot for.
Do you collaborate with the kitchen much in terms of the menu that rotates through here?
We do it's kind of a small collaboration where we have a lunchtime sandwich and we pair it with a beer because we're trying to get lunchtime beers back, but doesn't really go. So mostly it's just academic.
Well, hey, summer's right around the corner, right? I mean,
yeah,
lunchtime beer in summer.
It could be a hit because there'll be a lot more tourists here.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be a hit.
So a lunchtime beer then. So we've talked about lagers.
Yeah.
Would you consider doing something like a rattler or, something really light in the lunchtime?
I would consider doing some lighter beers for sure. I do have a range of beers like the Irish Red's 4.3%. I have a pepper blonde we're going to be brewing on Sunday.
Ooh.
And that's 3.7%.
Wow.
And I do have a range of approachable beers just because that's who our clientele are. I'm still not getting into wild fermentation or lactobacillus or anything just because there's a lot of other breweries that do a really good job on it. And I just don't have the space to keep things separate unless I do kettle sours, and I don't believe in those.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. delicious beers that Chris is making there. And there's some more delicious beers to come as well. So looking forward to see what he comes up with in the summer. The brunch that was hosted by Swan's Pub was fantastic. And so I just had to talk to the chef who designed it all.
My name is Bob Hendle, and I'm the chef at Swan's Brewery Pub and Hotel.
All right. And we're at the Brewmasters Brunch for Victoria Beer Week. And you've been a busy man over the last 24 hours. You did an awesome job with brunch today. What were you serving?
Well, first off, thank you. That's very kind. And yeah, it has been a crazy 24 hours. It's been a crazy 48 hours. Today we served from top down. We had our beer bread that we make in-house. We use the spent grains from the brewing process and the beer itself.
Is that a regular feature on the menu?
We do it every day. So we bake the bread fresh every day and we give it away. So if you come in and sit at a table and order food, we give you beer bread. We like the story behind it and we just like giving it away. It's really good. So
what else are you going to do with that grain when you're done, right?
You got to give it away. So so we had the beer bread. From there, we went into the spent grain and banana pancakes. We had the hop roasted tomatoes, which had the East Kent Golding hops.
And just to back you up to the bread too, you did a hop infused butter, didn't you?
There was no hops in the butter. That was just herbs. Okay. Right. That we do every day as well, but we don't do the hops in it. So from there, the next one in was scrambled eggs, which are just eggs.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I don't need to beer that up at all.
Unless the chickens were fed the spent grains.
Fair.
Then,
yeah, that's fair. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if we have any chicken farmers that pick up the spent grains, but we do have farmers that do pick up the spent grains. We have some pig farmers and some cattle farmers that pick up the spent grains. Like often, actually, it's in the summertime we see them a lot. Like they're a regular fixture throughout the back hallway, and so yeah, they pick up a fair bit. Anyways, after that we had bacon, which is a local product from Glenwood, which is great. We had the turducken for a short while. We only had 2 pans of it. It was something that we... I
got a little bit. And it was
nice. It was something we had... It was something that we make once in a while, and we had it, and it was like, you know what? Let's just use it up on this event. Not to say that it was like old by any means, but it was just... We have a small amount, nothing we can serve, for a whole service, so let's just use it here, and it's really cool anyway, so... But we served that with a hemp and hop chimichurri.
And then the salmon.
The salmon. That's right, the salmon. So... we had 2 smoked salmons. We had our house smoked salmon, which was flaked up already. And then I tried something new. It was a pastrami smoked salmon. So we brined it for 2 days with some root beer, actually, and a bunch of herbs and spices and stuff like that. Then we smoked it this morning. So I was here quite early to smoke it. And that's where we used some more hops in our spice rubs. So I think on that one, we used the Galena. No, we used the Galena, for the tomatoes. And we used the EKG for the salmon. And then the potatoes.
Those potatoes.
The Palm Kennedy. It's such a labor of love. I've only made that twice. I made it once a year ago for a beer dinner. And then we made it again for this one. And like I was saying, kind of off mic, is something that last night it was, I'd been here for a long time and it was starting to get really tired. And do I just chop up a case of potatoes and just fry them?
You were here at midnight, right?
I was here, I was here at midnight. So, and then back at around 7:30, which, it's kind of a tight.
Well, no, but like that effort pays off. And
everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. And those potatoes are like crack, they're they're incredible. They're super soft on the inside and really crispy on the outside.
I mean, it almost looked like cubed bacon, like
a little bit. Yeah. It does have a really cool look to it. And we tossed those in a hop salt that we made with Fuggles hops. I'm learning my hops.
So you don't necessarily incorporate hops that much on the regular menu here at Swan's, do you?
No, with the pub, we go. The thing is that when you start to beer stuff up, when people aren't from a beer culture, so people that aren't from the Pacific Northwest, they feel a little bit intimidated by it. It puts some people off, where they feel like if you name something and they don't know what it is and they have to ask, it could make a potential customer feel stupid, so.
Well, there are some pretty complex hop names out there.
I don't even know my hops, right? So, and I'm a chef. But when it comes to the regular menu, I try to keep it, if we put beer in everything, then we can't have gluten-free people and we can have gluten intolerant people. But if we beer everything up, then it's just, we kind of pigeonhole ourselves a bit. So just to make ourselves a little bit more
open. And you become
that
total beer pub, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've spent, about a year and a half going from brew pub to pub. So we're Swan's Brewery, pub, and hotel. So on the regular menu, our barbecue sauce has beer in it. we do the beer bread every day to make that connection that we have the brewery, and then a few other small places we use the beer as well. So like we have our new soup is our chicken cheddar ale soup. We have that full time. So, for every, I think 7.5 liters of soup, there's a liter of beer in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And does that beer vary, or is it the same?
Well, we use the Scotch ale this time, but it could vary. I mean, if the thing is that in the kitchen here, we make everything from scratch for the most part, like 95% of everything is made in-house. So the same as with the beer, where Chris makes it in a batch, things are made in batch here. So with the soup, if he doesn't have the Scotch ale, then we'll go to, the uphill amber ale. And if he doesn't have that, then we'll go to a similar malty style beer. We'll stay away from the IPAs.
Right. So, and when you're at home, what do you like to cook?
I don't cook a lot at home, to be honest. Lately I've been kind of living here and then sleeping at home and then waking up, showering, and coming back here. But if I'm at home and oftentimes if I have a day off, I'll invite people over because it will prompt me to actually cook. Because if it's just me, I'm likely just gonna go out.
Well, because I asked that, right? Because, it's that joke of the carpenter's house is never finished. Right.
The carpenter's house is never finished, and the chef never cooks at home. And, it is a funny conundrum for sure. But typically, like if I have people come over, I like risotto, so I'll do risotto. Around Christmas time, I'll have some family over, and we usually do like a Christmas pie, so a tortiere, a pot pie, something like that. I've done carbonaras. Lasagna is a favorite of mine. Simple stuff. I had some family over for lunch a little while ago, and we did croque madames, which are like fancy grilled cheeses, basically. So just home food, basically.
Right. And summertime's coming up here in Victoria. Is there going to be a change in the menu? Like, we
just changed, actually. That's why it's been such a long week. It changed on Wednesday. So
wow. All right.
Yeah. So it's
man, you don't make life easy on yourself.
No, I haven't. It's been an ambitious week for sure. So yeah, we did the menu change on the Wednesday. The Thursday, what day is it today? We're Saturday, right?
Saturday,
so Thursday was kind of spent getting a little bit ready for Friday's prep for today, basically. So yeah, it's been a long haul. Yeah. And then next week, I mean, Beer Week's not done. I mean, we're only on day 2, right?
Yeah.
So we've got another week ahead of us, and then we've got Culinary next week, which is a big event in town as well. Not to take away from Beer Week, but I've got that looming as well, and there's always a lot going on.
And then the tourists arrive,
and then we get right into tourist season. Yeah. There's no rest for the wicked, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Bob, for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on here. This is really cool.
So big thank you to Bob for his time. He did sound a little tired in that interview, but he was up late preparing that excellent meal for us. So well done, Bob, and congratulations again. All right. So the final event that I attended for Victoria Beer Week was Fishing for Beer. It's an interesting night where they pair up seafood with different beers on offer. And so I hit the floor and just asked some of the breweries what they thought of the event.
My name is Garrett Lalonde. I am the brewer at Sooke Oceanside Brewery.
And how long have you guys been open?
We've been open since November of 2016, so about a year and 4 months now.
Yeah, but you were temporarily opened, right?
So we underestimated how much Sooke would flock to a craft brewery that just opened up. So we opened and we ran out of beer in 2.5 days, and we had to shut down for a month and a half to rebuild stock, and we've actually been open ever since now.
All right, cool. So you learned your lesson that, popularity, you need more beer.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we just try and keep everything stocked, and we've got our bottles out on shelves, and we're just, doing the best we can to keep up with demand.
So what's the size of your brew house?
Oh, so we brew off of a Sapco, which most breweries use for a pilot system. It's a kettle full, 70 liters. Our tanks are 250 liters, so it takes 3 to 4 brews a day to fill up those tanks.
And you're brewing pretty much every day?
Not so much anymore. We do contract brew a little bit now. So the Riot Brewery, I go up there once a week and I brew our 4 core brands there, which leaves us the little brewery to do experiments and just make new weird beers.
So since you've kind of recently opened, this is your first Victoria Beer Week, right?
This is our second Victoria Beer Week, actually. We were at Fishing for Beer last year and opening Cast Night, which is where we did our Victoria launch, was during Beer Week.
All right, cool. And what beers did you bring for this Fishing for Beer?
So tonight we brought our Stiff Jab Pale Ale. Stiff Jab is a boxing term that when your power hand is down, you're using your, non-good hand. If you're a righty, you're using the left hand. And it's just a stiff jab, consistent, solid maneuver. So it's just like solid, clean, classic pale ale. And then we brought our Fight in the Dog Scotch Ale, which is a North American style Scotch ale with a little bit of peated barley in there. So there's a little bit of smoke, but it's not overwhelming.
Are all your beers named after boxing terms?
No, actually, most of our beers are named after locations in Sooke, with the exceptions of the Fight in the Dog and the Stiff Jab and our Stuck in the Mud Coffee Porter. We've got our Renfrew Red, which is named after Port Renfrew, Leechtown Lager, which is named after an old gold mining town in Sooke. So we try and stay Sooke focused for the names of our beers.
Right. So, I mean, but couldn't you get stuck in the mud out in Sooke?
Well, you could, and Stuck in the Mud is a collab with the local coffee roastery, Stick in the Mud. So we're like, oh, all right, so that's kind of Sooke, I guess. Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't know where Sooke is, where exactly is it?
So Sooke is a 45-minute drive out of Victoria. In all right traffic, 20 minutes if you go a little too fast for comfort, and an hour if you're stuck in the Colwood Crawl. But we're a 45-minute drive down Highway 14, main road and only highway into Sooke, and we are attached to a Shell gas station.
Oh, right. And if anybody wants to find out more about the brewery, how can they do so?
They can look at any social media accounts. We've got a Twitter, we've got an Instagram, we've got a Facebook, or just go to SookeOceansideBrewery.com.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Your name?
Adam Crandall.
And you're representing?
Moody Ales.
And how long have you been coming to Victoria Beer Week?
4 years.
And we're at Fishing for Beer. What beers did you bring tonight?
Tonight we brought our Belgian Golden Strong Ale, and we brought a Sriracha Ace Patters beer.
And how's the reception been? You been getting any feedback on the beer?
People seem to be liking them. Wandering around, and yeah, no complaints.
Have you found any food here that pairs well with your own beer?
The chowder, the oysters, for sure. I've eaten a lot of oysters.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everybody who took the time to chat with me at Victoria Beer Week. Got to thank the organizers of Victoria Beer Week for making things happen to get me out there. Also need to say thanks to the BC Ale Trail for making this episode possible. Big thank you to Hotel Zed, by the way, for putting me up and looking after me. It was very comfortable, and thanks for the donuts, guys. And so, with that, if you want to check out Victoria Beer Week next year, you can go to victoriabeerweek.com. That is where you'll find all the details on everything that's going on in Victoria for the festival. And don't forget, the BC Ale Trail as well has info year-round on Victoria and other regions in the province. If you want to follow this podcast series, you can on your podcast player of choice. So hope you've enjoyed this episode enough to hit subscribe. If you liked it, please share, tell a friend. We really appreciate that. You can also follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Cascadian Beer. We're also on Twitter at Cascadian Beer and on Instagram at Cascadian Beer Podcast. My name's Aaron. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. And until next time, remember, support your local.